Well, Happy New Year, 2024. I hope you had fun in 2023. But for this Vault episode, I went all the way back to episode 94 of the show Secure Digital Life, which was aired on January 15th of 2019. So it was me and Russ talking about the new year. So just for fun, enjoy.
This is a Security Weekly production for security professionals by security professionals. Please visit securityweekly.com/subscribe to subscribe to all the shows on our network.
Welcome to Secure Digital Life. And you type in AAA porn or whatever it is you're typing in. I'm sorry. I was at a PG show.
And I'm really excited to be here.
I'm glad you're here because somebody needs to know what's going on.
That's right.
Okay, so now
somebody has to drink this.
It's another day. It's another episode.
Yeah, he's looking at the wrong camera.
You put my camera over here. Cut. Basically, forget you ever saw that. I think actually forgetting you ever saw that would really be a good idea at this point. We're still here. It wasn't the end of anything this year. It wasn't Y2K or Y19 or the end of the Unix clock. That's coming up in the out there.
Although I've been seeing a lot of advertisements on the internet about how this is the year 2019 and how similar or different it is to Blade Runner's portrayal of 2019.
This was the year of Blade Runner, right? Was it Blade Runner was 2019?
I think so.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, you're right. No, I did see that. It's not like Blade Runner at all. Mm-hmm. I mean, I keep waiting on Daryl Hannah to show up, but she hasn't, and neither has Sean Young. And the last time I saw either one of them, they didn't look like that anymore, which was kind of disappointing. Yeah. Oh, that was misogynistic. But hey, it's 2019. It's like, hey, why not? We can all be misogynistic now, right? Yeah, it's in the voice in my head just said it was 2019 without a doubt. So anyway. Sorry, my teleprompter just quit, so give me a sec. I'm going to pull up my notes so I know what we're supposed to talk about today. So today on SDL, Russ and I are going to talk about our New Year's resolutions, our second New Year's resolution show, which I guess we should resolve to have a third one next time. But hopefully we'll all still be here in 2020. 2019 adds up to, 12, which is the same number of letters as an Abraham Lincoln, which... I don't know. Maybe that means we should all shave our mustaches off and just grow neck beards. There's a conspiracy for you, the neck beard conspiracy theory. Look that one up and see what you find out. But anyway, so we're going to talk about our New Year's resolutions about security items instead of talking about our New Year's resolutions about other things we probably should be doing to live longer or whatever and prosper kind of thing. That means something else today, I know, but it's like Leonard Nimoy. Sorry, we're all kind of wound up here because it's a new year and we haven't done a show in 2 weeks, so we've all been off doing relaxing things. My first New Year's resolution for this, and I already do this, but it's for you as well, was to use a VPN. So one of the things I really felt like that you should make a resolution about was to put a VPN on your phone and laptop if you haven't done it already. It's time to bite the bullet if you haven't. And I have to put this here so I can see it, so I can actually see what's supposed to be on teleprompter. VPNs right now, they're cheap. They're easy to use. I have them on everything I have, and they just connect automatically, except at certain places where they won't let you do that. There are still apparently CISO types out there who think VPNs should not be allowed, and they block access to them at your site. If they're doing that, you should complain and tell them that I told you to do so. Actually, don't tell them I told you to do so. Tell them somebody important said it. I don't know why they think that's a good idea. Originally, what I was hearing was there was two reasons that people were blocking VPNs. One was bandwidth, which is just ridiculous because they use almost no bandwidth. And the other was that they thought people would be doing illicit things that they couldn't track, monitor, and or log, which they're doing anyway, guys. I hate to tell you, that didn't help. So let people use VPNs on your network if you are listening and you're a CISO type who gets to make those sorts of decisions, because I don't like it. Russ, what do you think?
I think that's an absolute requirement, and I will add also to that. Make sure when you're purchasing a VPN for yourself or you're recommending to your employer that you want a VPN solution, make sure you look for one that supports all of your devices. There are several now which you can buy a subscription to for about $5 a month, roughly $5 to $7 a month, and they'll cover up to five devices, maybe even more. And you can install them on your laptops, you can install them on your tablets, you can install them on your phones. But I like the ones that specifically can be managed on multiple devices. And also, you want something with a kill switch so that when you can't connect to a VPN for whatever reason, like the ones, Doug, you talked about one earlier where they just won't allow them in certain locations. When you can't connect, the device itself won't let you get online because, having a VPN is great, but making sure that it's always turned on, that's another story. If you have it turned off, just having it's not enough. It has to actually be enabled and turned on. So make sure you look for those two things.
I agree, and if you get the ones like my iPhone lets you set VPN on, and my personal policy, my company policy, and my life policy that you should adhere to, I do not use VPN. I do not use Wi-Fi that is not on VPN, and so at certain places I go, we won't name any names, I cannot use VPN, and so I have to use my cell phone instead because I refuse to use their public Wi-Fi when they will not let me use VPN. And I'm like, I don't know why you won't let me do that, but I'm not using it, and that makes me even more resolute to not do that.
A lot of people who criticize VPNs also think that their bandwidth will take a hit, meaning that, if they're getting 40 megabits per second, by using a VPN, they'll only get 5 or something like that. And that's not entirely true. You may see a tiny little bit of a hit, but you're not talking about a heck of a lot. And so that's definitely not a reason not to use it. So
no, and I mean, I've actually looked at the bandwidth use on the VPN, and it's really, really low. I mean, it's infinitesimal unless it's misconfigured, in which case that's on you, CISO people. But for the most part, you won't see any. The only place we've had problems with it is sometimes there are services that will not allow you to be using a VPN to connect, and I have had a few
Amazon
places.
Prime Video is
some video streaming services do not like that because it's getting around their copyright protections and things like that. So look for those all-you-can-eat kind of licenses that will let you put all your devices on one license. They have family plans. You can get your whole household put on the VPN. Second resolution, use two-factor authentication when and wherever possible. Swear it. On a stack of punch cards, repeat after me. I, your name here, do solemnly swear that I will use two-factor authentication wherever it is possible to do so, and I will use different passwords and usernames on all my sites so that even the non-two-factor authentication ones will not matter so much. So help me, Grace Hopper. And so you can take that oath with us here today that we will use our YubiKeys and other devices for two-factor authentication wherever we can, because I promise you can get hurt by not using two-factor authentication. I was just involved in a legal matter, not against me. I was being an expert about two-factor authentication and people who got hurt very severely because they did not use it. And if they had only used two-factor authentication, they would have been able to avoid all the grief that came out. Look, there's going to be people who know your password in the world. You can go out right now and you can jump on the internet and Google who knows my password, and you can find lists. Password lists for sale is a good thing to Google. I think Russ added that to the notes. I agree, and you will find that your password is out there. And if you use the same password on every single thing, the one I put in the show notes was Longapuv, which means dragon in Klingon, because dragon is a very, very common password apparently these days. People know what your password is, even in Klingon, and they put it on password cracking lists, and they can break dictionary passwords and almost instantaneously, and they do put Klingon on them. If you don't have Klingon on your password list, you better put it on there. I put the whole Klingon dictionary on mine just because, hey, why not? Also Dothraki, which I've never watched Game of Thrones. I don't know why. I just never watched it, but apparently Dothraki is very popular language now to learn as well. So get your two-factor out and get it in place before it's too late and you suffer. Russ?
No, absolutely. And then just to add one more thing, even if you, in terms of the password list for sale thing too, we're going to talk in number 3 about getting paranoid. Well, you could start by looking up, have I been owned or pwned, as the case may be, and most of us have probably already been hacked, whether it was the Marriott screw up or the Equifax business or the Sony.
OPM.
Somewhere somehow somebody has your password.
OPM gave up all my data. Thank you so much. The Office of Personnel Management let me know that they had lost all of my classified information.
Yep.
And lost it to very likely a hostile third party that was very likely a nation state. I don't remember the wording of the letter, but it was kind of like at that point I was like, okay, all bets are off, because I had to put everything there ever was to know about me in that document. So if you're out there and you have that document, enjoy. It's really exciting, let me tell you. Nose Fortran, I think, is on there, but I don't know if that makes you a threat or not. So number 3. Get more paranoid. Russ kind of spoiled it. It was going to be a surprise, but he said it already. Number 3 was get more paranoid. I hate to say it, but fishing or fishers or fisher people, I don't know, what do you call fishers? Fishets? I don't know.
Fisher peeps? I don't
Lousy
know.
sons of bitches who need to get a life. Fishermen. We can't use that. That's not modern. PH fisherman, fisher people, fisher person, fisher, I don't know, fishers of men. I don't know. We can cite all kinds of ancient works. Used to. Fishing involved a guy in broken English who says his name is Bobby and that he's in Long Beach, calls you and tells you that to give up your mother's maiden name, and if you don't, you're going to be put off the internet forever, and you said, bite me. No problem. But today, that's not so simple, and fisher people have gotten a lot better at this, and they've learned how to manipulate you, and they keep getting better all the time. They pretty much combine everything they can get together, from the dark web, from scraping websites to making phone calls to other people that know something about you and asking questions. So now you get a robot named Majel with a sexy voice that has very, important information about you that maybe other people wouldn't necessarily know, like your middle name or your kids' names or the school that you attend or whatever. And by using those things and then attaching that to an email or a robot with a sexy voice, or even a guy named Bobby with broken English from Long Beach, who call you, they try to get you to go for it, and they get better and better at it all the time. Probably my favorite one last year that I got was an email from the president of my university. If you look carefully, the email was not correct, but it did have his name, and it had an email address that looked a lot like the email address at my university. And what it basically said was, it said the Board of Trustees had just passed a new rule dictating the public behavior of faculty members, and that they were going to address things like tattoos, intoxication, cigar smoking, being on television shows or web podcasts. In fact, just being on Security Weekly was enough to get you fired. The fact that all this had come out really piqued my interest, because I thought this is going to be the funniest firestorm we've seen in a long, long time when they tell this to the faculty. Of course, it was a phishing attack. Of course, the attachment was ransomware and also a phone home component. But I almost clicked it, because I was sitting there going, oh, this is going to be so good. I cannot wait till the faculty get a load of this. And it was a pure, straight-up phishing attack. The other one I got last year that was so good involved my daughter's school. I had her name on it. It had the name of her school, and was an email that looked very similar to the school that she attended, and said she needed something signed right away, or she was going to be prevented from doing something that I knew she wanted to do. And I don't know where they got this information, but they had it. I almost clicked it. I was like, oh, wait, why would my daughter's school be asking me for anything? I think, they don't even let me come on campus anymore. But, I almost clicked it because it had the right stuff in it. So starting with just getting more paranoid about what you click and what you read and what kind of clickbait you look at, I think that's the first part of getting, more paranoid about the year. But also that relates right back to two-factor authentication and the use of better passwords and the use of VPNs and all these things that you really should be doing. And until you get a little more paranoid, you're going to end up having problems with this. Russ?
No, I absolutely agree. And also keep in mind, while you're listening to this, this isn't like, oh, I'm going to pick one thing and from the list and that's it. This is meant to actually be a systemic change for you. That's why New Year's resolutions, not just resolution. You should do really all of these things in order to maintain the highest level of security for yourself and your family.
You're absolutely right. It's not like I'm going to do more sit-ups. Is that they don't call them that anymore?
Yeah.
They call them something else now. Yeah, I'm going to do more sit-ups. Although I could do one, and I'd be doing more sit-ups. But
core. Work on your core.
I'm going to work on my core more. Yeah. So if I did that at all, it would be 100% improvement over what I've been doing.
I work out my core. I turn my computer on and play Crisis.
There you go. It's like you got to set it on 40 frames a second and play Crisis at full res, and on multiple monitors, and you can work that core really. That core it won't get stronger though. It'll just overheat and burn up. But I mean that sort of argues that you shouldn't do it anyway. Number 4, get a plan. I put this on there. I felt like there were 3 plans that people really ought to be doing. There's probably more, but I initially, when I was thinking of this, I put 3 plans on there. One of them was get a plan for backing up your data beyond the reach of ransomware phishing. So even though we said get more paranoid, they just get better all the time. And my opinion is you probably will eventually get phished. And when you get phished, you could lose data either through ransomware or something. I've gotten so many calls in 2018 from people at agencies and things saying, what happens when you get ransomwared? I'm like, well, you use your backups to restore. And they go, what if you don't have those? Look, I know that you say you back things up. We all do. And it's probably maybe the 3rd greatest lie in history. I have my data backed up. We won't get into what those other 2 are, but we all know. My data is backed up and safe is probably the 3rd greatest lie in history that's been told to more people over time. If you say your data is backed up, there's a lot more to that than just, once maybe 7 or 8 years ago, I ran a backup and it's on my hard drive in a folder. I know you can say, well, Windows backs up my system. It does if you have it turned on, but it backs it up on the same hard drives that you have in the system that now is going to be compromised. If you have a fire, if you have a cat, and cats emit all sorts of noxious substances like cat barf, urine, various and sundry other bodily fluids, and they will put those in places you didn't expect, like, say, right down the vent of your computer, asking for a friend. But all those things can destroy the data that is in that system. Heat. We lost some hard drives at school on my server rack a couple of weeks ago just based on heat. So if all that stuff's in the same system, so get that data out of band, and you have to have a plan for this. And you can't just say, oh, yeah, I'll do it every now and then. You got to have a plan, and you have to test the plan. So you have to see, does it work? Can you restore those backups? Well, what happens? And so you need to be more paranoid. You need to think about those backups and say, what happens if the building burns? What happens if the cat eats the hard drive or pees on the hard drive or any of the other things that cats do to stuff? Number 2, get a plan for your password management. How are you going to better manage passwords in 2019? Are you going to use vaulting software? Obviously, you're going to use 2-factor authentication because you already agreed to that earlier and you swore on a stack of punch cards that you would. You've got to get a plan for how you're going to manage your passwords. And this means using multiple tiers. And if you don't know what some of this means, we've done other shows on that where we've gone over and over and over these plans. So go back and watch some of those shows if you don't remember. But you need tiers for your password. Don't use the same password in multiple places, because if you do, that means people will go to those places and they will try to guess the obvious. And if they get your Netflix password and then they say, wow, I bet they use a bank. Wonder what bank that could be. There's just not that many banks, folks. And if they guess that you also use this other bank and you use the same password there, boom, they got you and they got into your financials. So be sure you have some kind of plan for that password management. And then 3, get a plan for what's going to happen when you do get phished or compromised. What are you going to do when someone steals your phone? What are you going to do when somebody hacks your Netflix account or your Facebook account? What's your plan? Because when these things happen, and I've learned this through a long time of doing like forensics and response work, when stuff happens, it's too late to develop a plan. because then you're just going to run around screaming and flapping your arms because you won't know what to do. And every second then is going to count. So this is why military, police, EMT type people train all the time, and they have plans for everything, because when it happens, it's too late to sit down and go, I really need a Phillips head screwdriver. Yeah, I really need a Phillips. It's like that Xmas morning stuff where you get up and they don't have the C batteries, and then you have to go driving all over town trying to find that one place that's open that sells C batteries. And I'm sure they get tired of that all day. Like when you're running into that adult bookstore going, do you have C batteries? And they're going, no, we don't. We have a lot of D batteries, but no C batteries. Yeah, we won't get into that. Russ,
vibrating noise.
do you have any comments on that one, Russ?
In the industry they call these DRPs, or disaster recovery plans, and so you may people think, oh yeah, it's great for work, but I don't need one of those at home. That's where you're dead wrong. So do what Doug says and just come up with plans for at least these three types of scenarios, because one of them, or if not all of them, they eventually will happen.
And they don't call them disaster plans anymore, because they don't like, the HR people didn't like the word disaster. They call them business continuity plans.
Well, perhaps they should have changed it like with human capital. I mean, everybody likes to be called that, right? So
I actually said they should change it to, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, plan. But they didn't like that either. So, I didn't get that job. On into a little higher level thing, but it's not a bad thing for you to be aware of as well, even if you're just at home. Get a framework, but don't just tick the boxes. So if you watch the Security Weekly Christmas show, I was trying to say this, but I kind of said, and then they cut the camera off me. But that's what happens when people get free booze. Look, NIST and COBIT and all these people have put together these very, very elaborate, gigantic, ginormous, many, many page documents that have guides. And whether you like them or not, they actually did spend a lot of time on this if you go through them. They're very comprehensive and a little overwhelming. That's been my experience. Is you show up with COBIT and it's like, this is volume 17 of 35, and you drop this giant unabridged dictionary-sized thing on the table. And yeah, it's a little intimidating, but COBIT and NIST and all these other guideline frameworks are really, really good things. And they should be a place where you start steering your ship, whether it's just your home or it's your business or it's your giant multinational corporation. All those things can fit into these frameworks. But the danger, and this is what I was trying to say, but it didn't come out right, was don't just get set on ticking little boxes where it says, do you have a backup? Yes. You have to go deeper than that, and you have to be sure you know what these things are and that they've been tested. Even at home, can you restore your backups? This is a question I love to ask people. Can you restore? Have you ever done that? And they go, well, I don't know. It's over here on some CDs somewhere. It's like, right, sure. You have a spare CD drive? Probably don't even have a CD drive anymore. And will it read that? I had a company that came to me, and they had all these tapes piled up. And they had ticked the boxes that they had backups. But when they went to restore after they had a catastrophe, they didn't have a machine that would read the tapes. They had one that would write the tapes, but the reading heads were bad, and nobody had ever tested the thing, and they didn't make the tape reader anymore. And it was just kind of like, well, these are useless, and you've been spending all this time on it. So, take a look at some of these frameworks. If even at home, if you're just a student or whatever, take a look at some of these frameworks and start sort of getting it in your head that they are useful and you should be doing them, but not just to tick boxes and say, yeah, I think I do that. Oh, yeah, sure, that's fine. No problem. Yeah, absolutely. Russ, you have any comments about that one?
No, I completely agree. I think these are very important things, especially with, the whole backup thing that you mentioned. You got to test the backups, restore them every 6 months just to give it a try. And that way you have peace of mind, if not, a piece of data.
We keep doing shows on that too, because I keep getting calls and they're going like, oh yeah, we got ransomware. And I'm like, use your backups. And like, oh yeah, well, there's a little problem with that. Yeah. And it's like, did you not watch my shows? Really? Why do I do this? Number 6, get IoT under control. We all love gadgets. I want them all. I don't have them all. Russ has all of them, I think. If there's an IoT gadget out there, he's got one somewhere in his backpack that he's transporting through internet or airport security.
You were there in Israel.
And Paul has all the ones that Russ doesn't have that were banned in 5 countries, but Paul has 2 different versions because they came in black and silver. But the problem is we're just now starting to realize that all these things access our networks. They access other things on our network. They access other IoT things. They access file shares, and they talk. They phone home. They jump out of your network and they start calling some factory in China. No offense to people in China or factories in China, but I don't know what's going on there. I don't know what's going on in factories in Philadelphia. And I don't really like the idea that my thermostat is calling some factory in Philadelphia and sharing information about my network with it. And that is very worrisome. And there's so much meshing going on between all these gadgets. So we fill a room full of clocks and thermometers and doorknobs, and we won't get into all the rest of the things we might have in that room, but there could be lots of them there. And if all those things start talking from your light bulbs on down, and they start talking to each other and making evil plans, you can just hear them whispering out there. Is that drone outside your window flickering in binary, or is it just flickering? Is it talking to your thermostat about how to get into your network? I don't know, but I don't like the idea that there's a drone outside my window either. And we have to get drone capturing stuff. Did you see that at Gatwick? You know, Gatwick Airport in London was shut down for days because people kept popping drones up, and every time they would say, "Okay, it went down. We don't see it anymore," then it would pop up again, and they would, "Oh no, hold, stop, hold, don't anybody do anything," and then and then the drone would go back down. And now they have these guns with nets on them to go out and capture drones, and they got drones to attack other drones, and it's getting real close to Metalhead. So if you haven't seen Bandersnatch or Metalhead on Black Mirror, you might want to go watch those just to review. Russ, you're the IoT guy.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean Internet of Tickle, despite what Paul thinks. But no, I completely agree. And I taught a special topics course on IoT security last semester, or 2 semesters ago, excuse me. And a lot of the students had come up with devices that I hadn't even known, and their communication protocols were doing precisely what you were saying, which was phoning home like ET. One was a yoga mat, just for the record. Come on, why do we need a connected yoga mat? But I guess they made an argument that seemed legitimate. But yeah, so you want to make sure that your data is just that, your data, and minimize any kind of superfluous sharing with other companies. Establish not to establish
I
profile.
want my yoga mat to talk. I like that idea that my yoga mat is going, "Doug, you're a downward dog." And I need to do the 2000, "Doug, your downward dog isn't very good. I'm going to kill you now. I'm summoning all the thermostats to come and take you out." But yeah, exactly. Number 7, get containers under control. If you aren't already using containers, you probably will be. If you don't know what containers are, I promise I'll do a show about containers really soon. I keep meaning to. I have it on my list of shows that people wanted me to do to talk about what containers are. Containers are very loosely, and experts, I'm sorry, but they're similar to VMs and things like that, but they're not VMs, but they're off in that realm. And we're using them more and more. So we're getting more and more of these black box things that we don't know how they work. They're sitting there glowing off in the distance somewhere, and unless you have Dixie Flatline to help you out, you may be worried about exactly what that thing is doing. And it's really very similar to the IoT problem from a security perspective, is that you have this thing, somebody else built it, they put all these things in it, and you don't know what's in there. So I worry about containers a lot. Russ, you have any container worries?
Nope, I think you've covered it all.
Okay.
Number 8.
Okay, we have to do we got to get through these. Watch more podcasts and develop trusted sources. Not just because I'm a podcaster, but because I want you to develop trusted sources. One of the things that you have a lot of struggles, and I have a lot of struggles with, we all have struggles with, is basically we rely so heavily on instant information. And we jump on Facebook and we see an article saying there's a Pizza Hut in Philadelphia that's selling meth for Hillary Clinton. Okay. And then, somebody grabs a rifle and heads out to stop it because it's a horrible, horrible thing. Okay. We've got to find a way so that we know what kind of information we're getting and where we're getting it from. And to do that, you're going to have to spend some time researching and finding out what works for you. So, when I was a kid, my dad and the Rubbles next door got a morning and an evening newspaper. And the morning one came out at like 6 a.m. and the evening one came at 4 o'clock. And it had news. And they trusted that news. My dad read it cover to cover. And I'm sure Barney and Betty next door did too. But they relied on that information. Today, we get so much information, and so much of it can so easily be manipulated. It's really tough when you start searching. And again, this goes back to the plan. Because the problem is when you do get in a bad situation and something's happened and you get ransomware, that's when you start searching frantically. And the first site I would want you to see is, of course, my phishing site. So that now not only did you get ransomware, I fished you at the same time. Yes, I can solve that problem for you. Just enter your mother's maiden name, your password, and your bank account number, and we'll take care of it for you, and you'll be back up and running in no time. And then, while you're dealing with your ransomware attack, I can drain your bank account at the same time. So, find sources. It doesn't have to be me, but find sources that you trust, that give you good, reliable information, and use them all the time. So that helps you to keep up. Russ?
Yeah, and like I said, PSW is a great resource. Like you were talking about other types of podcasts and vodcasts, and things like lynda.com and Udemy and some of the sponsors that we have on the show. They're really, really, really good resources. So
absolutely. So
invest a few dollars it costs, and
or even free. Find ones you trust and use them, and get used to using them all the time. And so number 9 was learn something new. Just take the time. You don't have to become an expert and spend 10,000 hours being, the world's leader in it. But just find something in the tech world that's new to you and learn it. If it's a programming language or some networking technique or some security technique, learn to pick a lock. I don't know. Find something that interests you and learn it all the time, because that helps you keep up. Because one of the things, I fired a lot of people. I used to be a consultant to do that. And because I have no human empathy. I'm sorry, but you've been dismissed. You are redundant. And then they cry and all this, and I hand them tissue, and then it's like, but you're still redundant. And there's a charge for the tissue. Please deposit. Yeah. But when people got laid off, there were people that got laid off and went, yeah, right, screw you. And they walked out the door because they knew they could walk down the street and get another job making more money. And they were probably thinking about doing it anyway. And then there were people like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I'm like, okay, yeah, are you done? We need the room. And they're like, but I know COBOL and I never learned anything else. And it's like, right, well, now I'm crying for you too. But the bottom line is, if you don't keep your skill set up in this field, you will get obsoleted. And once you get obsoleted, that's fine as long as you still have that job. But jobs change and the industries change. And we see all these people that are yelling and screaming about their jobs going away. And a lot of times those jobs went away because they don't exist anymore. Otherwise, we'd all still be, blacksmiths or whatever. We'd be making buggy whips. Yeah. And what do you call a person who makes barrels?
Barrel maker?
No. It's not a carter. There's a name for it. I'll think of it at an inopportune moment and shout it out. Cooper, thank you so much. Voice in my head. Coopersmith is a person who makes barrels. It is, I'm telling you. We'd all still be doing it. I guess there's still people that make barrels because you got to put stuff in them. But we'd be putting oysters in barrels and not have refrigeration. So get with the program and keep up with
the barrel, buddy.
Huh?
It's your turn in the barrel.
Yeah, we all know where that phrase came from and what you're thinking about.
Yeah, we
do. You filthy slut. But it really is. It's dirty. So don't look it up, or do look it up, and you'll be sorry. All right. And the last one: check your trust. One of the most common things we've seen as an attack vector in the last year was going through other trusted sources, IoT, other vendors, other people, to get to things people wanted. And as they become more sophisticated, they've realized that you can't take out the FBI with a full frontal attack. You have to come in from the back door. This is getting very suggestive here somehow. But if the person who puts Twinkies in the vending machine in the lobby has an IoT-enabled vending machine, really, that knows when it runs out of Twinkies, and they come back to you and they say, we want to actually connect our vending machine to your network so that it can order more Twinkies, because you don't want to run out of Twinkies, because we all know what happens then. People get the shakes, they're running around screaming, all this kind of Twinkie withdrawal stuff starts happening. If that machine's connected to your network, do you trust it? Well, you probably have to. It's added to your Active Directory. It's added to your trust world. And all of a sudden, there's a vector that they could come in. They go through the vendor who has no security at all because they're small. They come in through that. They put malware on the vendor. The malware gets transferred to the machine. Machine transfers the malware to your network. And the next thing you know, boom, you get compromised. You go, wow, we spent all this money on security, but we did let the Twinkie machine come in the lobby. And so this is a really, really big one, even for you at home, because again, you're trusting more things all the time. You add a thermostat, you add a light bulb, you add a drone, you add a drone swarm, you add metalhead dogs to patrol your property when nobody's there. And I mean, come on, it gets really, really scary. Russ?
No, I think that about sums it up. Again, my favorites are the VPN and the containers and the trust and just knowing and the backups. Obviously, I think those are the most important ones we talked about today.
I completely agree. I mean, I could go on. I mean, we could make this show like a day-long show and just keep going with a long list. I know you don't want me to do that. You do really out there, I know. But listen, get organized, get paranoid. Buy a rabid octopus if you need to. I mean, that's like the last line of defense, just keeping a tank by the front door. If somebody gets through your Hue-enabled doorbell and opens the front door by saying, "Hey, Alyssa, open the front door," and toss a rabid octopus in their face, and they won't come back for more. I promise. I don't know if they actually get rabid, but if they did, boy, that would be something to see. Let me tell you.